Do you think that liquidations are kind of pests, who leech
Mhm.
on the poor and greedy borrowers, or do you think it's a key function that actually maintains the viability of the whole ecosystem? And then if they do maintain this viability, is it fair to give them less or give them more? How are you thinking about that?
I think they perform a very important function at the end of the day. It's just you could argue they're getting paid a bit too much for it on average. So that's the argument that it should be market based how much you get as a liquidator when you perform this function rather than a set 5 or 10%. But just briefly about liquidations, what they are. Again, if you lend out your Ethereum and you borrow, let's say, Uniswap token, and Uniswap price goes up, that means your liabilities are going up while your assets stay the same. And that's the same scenario as with the mortgage. You're due to liquidation. And that depends on what exact level of liquidation is. But let's say if you lend $100 worth of Ethereum, your liquidation level is zero point 0.8, which means if your Uniswap token, is worth $80, you're subject to that liquidation, right? So a liquidator would come in and say, okay, I'm gonna, let's say, take some of your liabilities away from you. At the same time, some of your collateral as well. And on top of that collateral, I'm going to take a little bit of a bonus. And that's the service fee basically for performing this function. So as you can see, I've taken away some of your liabilities. I've taken away some of your collateral and a bit on top of that. Now you're in the green. No, you've been liquidated. But every time I do that, I take this bonus. And if it's 10% or 20%, that means there's actually an interesting risk. If the liquidator bonus is too high, there's scenarios where if I liquidate you, you keep going back into liquidation
Mm,
because I take too much collateral from you. And there's a way to model it, but that's another reason why they shouldn't be too high.
interesting.
And you have this dynamic where there's constant payouts by the borrowers to the liquidators. If it were 1% on a 10 million account, a lot of people, as in liquidators, would be profitable. So why should it be 10%, right? It can be higher because of gas. So the interesting feature actually on oil is that you're going to be able to take on market risk when you liquidate, which should decrease the spreads even more. So let's say I take on your debt and I take on your collateral. If I think that the collateral asset is actually going to bounce in price, I can repay this debt and sell the collateral later because the collateral value is going to go up. So that
Mhm.
way, I can say I'm going to be profitable at 1% liquidator bonus because I can manage this risk pretty well. I take on the debt, the collateral. Let's say Ethereum is the collateral, it bounces 2% in price, and I can sell at that, and I have repaid the loan and got the collateral back. So it introduces basically trading floor market making dynamics, which we haven't seen in the liquidator space before, which should make it even more competitive because now you
Yeah.
have people competing for the bonuses with market risks.
That's very interesting because at the moment these liquidation bonuses are fixed
Mm.
on each of the platforms, and presumably they overpay a little bit just to have the confidence that the liquidators will go and step in when they need to step in.
Yeah.
So there's probably room to optimize this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That should decrease the gas fees as well, make it less MEV kind of prone because you're not competing for this 10%. It's more like there's game theory now involved. Maybe you're profitable at 2, maybe at 3, maybe 4. You know.
Makes sense.